Да. So, okay, dear friends, we are starting our third session and final one. And this session consists of 4 talks. And the first one starts with our young colleague Adriana Čedežić with the title Types and Functions, Typology Issues of Latent Cantaroy and the Territory of the Skornisci. Please, Adriana, you're welcome.
Thank you. So today I will be presenting about typology issues of latent cantaroy at the territory of the Skornisci. And I will focus on the relationship between morphology between vessel shapes and their function, as well as on the question whether all the cantaroy actually belong to the same category. So cantaroy are beakers with 2 high strap handles that are associated with Dionysus and wine consumption in Greece. So during the 4th century BC, a large number of Hellenistic imports appeared in the Carpathian Basin and the Balkan region. So among them were also metal cantaroy, which can be seen on this slide. So examples from Szabolcs and So. I hope I pronounced that well. At the same time, local workshops started producing imitations, and these imitations are referred to as Danubian cantaroy, which were first mentioned by Venceslas Kruta and Miklos Saba. Later, their work was elaborated by Vustoiu and Egri, who provided a detailed typology, as well as Marko Dizdar, whose typology will be used in this work. And the work of Petar Popović is also worth mentioning. He actually studied origin and development of Balkan cantaroy. Before I start with the types, I will just briefly show you the territory in question. So based on historical sources and archaeological excavations, this territory extended from eastern Slavonia and Sirmia in the west to the Jevdak Gorge in the east, as well as it included also parts of Bačka and Banat and parts of the Morava Valley. When it comes to cantaroy at the territory of the Skornisci, there are 2 groups of cantaroy, which the first one is the group of cantaroy that are made on potter's wheel, and the second one is the handmade cantaroy. So according to Dizdar's typology, there are 8 types of cantaroy, 7 of which belong to the first group, and 4 of them appeared during early and middle Latin phases. So I will just present a few of them so you can see how they look. The first type is Zvenimirova Privlaka, which includes biconical vessels with biconical bodies set on high or low conical foot. Similar to them is Caraburma type, which is very rare on this territory. So this type is characterized by a vessel with rounded body, cylindrical neck, and wide and low conical foot. This typology also includes larger vessels. The first group is Pecine type of cantharoid, which includes vessels with rounded body and cylindrical neck, sometimes with ring-shaped bases or just flat bases. And the last one is crater, which also includes various forms, and they probably had different function. Among the late Latin types, there are 3 types identified. Gomalava is characterized by vessels with rounded or biconical bodies, 2 high strap handles, and conical or cylindrical necks. And Vincoci type, this group consists of S-shaped, S-profiled vessels that can have a cylindrical or conical neck as the previous type, while the Vukovar type is actually completely different because it resembles the shape of balls with 2 strap handles added. This type, Zonivirova LT15, belongs to the group of cantharoid made or handmade cantharoid. So they represent late Hallstatt tradition, and they are used through all phases of Latin period. So there are certain typological problems. First, the main criterion for classifying a vessel as a cantharos is the presence of 2 high strap handles. This criterion actually led to inclusion of morphologically different vessels. So, for example, cantharoid from Karaburma, from the graves at Karaburma, include different profiles, different shapes, and they differ also in the shape of their foot. And they also include, we can say, smaller vessels, while there are the same type comes from Pecine necropolis, which differs significantly from the Karaburma specimens in terms of shape, base, and dimensions, as there is this large vessel that is also included in this type. And here we can see examples of the Pecine type, which includes vessels with similar morphological elements, but with notable differences in size, including both smaller and much larger examples. And we can also see craters again, which also differ in profile, overall shape, and dimensions. These cantharoid were recovered from late Latin graves at Karaburma. So I have included ranges, height ranges, and rim diameter ranges. There can be probably several variants of this type, and the same type is also present in one grave dated to the Roman period, but I will return to this example later. And finally, we can also observe differences among the cantharoid of the Vincoci type, which was originally defined as including S-profiled vessels, but you can see that their neck shape and body shape differ a lot. On the other hand, Vukovar type appears to show less variability, as it mainly consists of balls without neck and with 2 strap handles added. Then all of this actually can point to their function, to the question about their function. So relying primarily on the presence of 2 strap handles led to inclusion of not just morphologically diverse vessels, but also functionally different vessels. So there is again this Pecine type cantharos, which resembles certain morphological elements of cantharoid, but it is a lot larger than the majority of cantharoid. And while analyzing late Latin cantharoid, I also noticed these three vessels that were described as Gomolava type. But if we compare them to the typical examples of this type, they differ a lot in the shape of their body, with a lot wider rims, and they have wider rims compared to the height of the vessel. So again, the question is, what was the function of all of these types? So cantharoid are traditionally associated with alcohol consumption and drinking practices. So in contrast, types such as Pecina and Craters are more often interpreted as vessels used for storage or mixing liquids. And although they are cantharoid vessels, because of their shape, their function is actually different. And then because of this, I also reconsidered Greek cantharoid as a reference point. So they're closely linked with wine consumption, mainly because Dionysus was usually depicted holding cantharos. And if we look more closely at the Attic metal cantharoid, we can see that they are open vessels where the rim diameter is the widest part. And this is the feature that is suitable for drinking vessels, since it allows easy access to the liquid. But if we look at the Latin cantharoid, there is a completely different pattern. Here we are actually dealing with more closed profiled vessels with smaller rim diameters, especially in the example from the grave 59. And the same can be seen in the late Latin cantharoid. The first example has rim diameter around 10 centimeters, while this last one has just 6.1. And this is the smallest cantharoid from the grade dated to the Roman period, with rim diameter of only 5.4. And when we take into account the high strap handles, I think it would be quite uncomfortable to actually consume anything from some of these smaller vessels. So I think the typology was useful tool, but it also left a lot of things unclear. There is no clear criteria for classification, for the vessel classification as cantharos. So the main feature is the presence of two high strap handles, which led to mixing different morphologically and possibly functionally different vessels. And because of this, I think the question is what actually defines cantharos, which morphological elements or what function they should have. And also there are cantharoid made on potter's wheel and handmade cantharoid, so they are simultaneously used. So maybe that also can point to different function of these vessels.
So please, colleagues, do you have any questions or comments on this interesting and very detailed overview on this specific material? Please. If nobody else, I will try with one question. Since you have this very huge number of pottery in different types, did you notice any regularity regarding the manner they were made? You mentioned handmade and wheel. made of potter's field. So their context, are there some differences, similarities, or different contexts regarding this feature? Did you find some?
No, only for late Latin contemporary. But just measurements like height of the vessels with their handles is usually the same as the shoulder diameter. So that's what I've noticed, but no regularities in other.
Of course, we will continue with this research, which is very interesting. Thank you very much, Adriana. And now our next speaker is Tomasz Sebeś. Did I pronounce it well? When the circle closes, remarks on connections of stamp decorated sites of Roman Pannonia and Dacia. Please.
Thank you.
Slide this.
Okay.
One.
Thank you. I would like to greet the colleagues and thank you for the invitation. In my presentation, I am to provide new evidence concerning a question in the research of Roman stamp decorated pottery that has remained unresolved for more than half a century. Although the topic fundamentally concerns provincial ceramic production, in this particular case, the data necessary for further progress originate from an unexpected source from the imported Roman pottery of the Sarmatian Barbaricum. Based on the recent publications, the stamped pottery types of the Sarmatian Barbaricum in the Carpathian Basin are now relatively well known. The most nuanced picture that can undoubtedly be drawn in the microregion of the Pest Plain in the foreland of the former Aquincum, where the larger quantity of finds provides a sufficient basis for distinguishing types of different provenance and chronology. You can see the mentioned microregion here. This is the northwestern part of the Great Hungarian Plain, and I don't have a map, but here is Pannonia, and somewhere here is Dacia province. The earlier layer of Roman imports dating to the 2nd century AD is represented by the Eastern Pannonian stamped wares, types identified by Eva Marotti, whose ornamentation ultimately derives from the Terra Sigillata vessels, this group. A particular substantial group consists of the conical shaped balls, this one, characteristic exclusively of this region, which dominate the local assemblage of imported stamp decorated pottery during the 3rd, 4th centuries AD. Also strongly represented are barbarian imitations, Sarmatian imitations of Terra Sigillata vessels, which almost without exception belong to the sphere of Sarmatian red painted pottery in the left side. And date between the 3rd and the 4th, 5th, 5th centuries AD. Other types occur only in smaller numbers. In such example is the fragment of late Roman stamped vessels from Etcher site 7, shown in the upper right corner of this slide. This little fragment is the only one in the fine material. So. Within the context, the two stamped decorated fragments from the Sarmatian settlement detail of Etcher site 6, shown on this slide, cannot be clearly classified. On the basis of both their fabric and their characteristic coating, the so-called Glanstone Uberzu, these fragments most likely belonged to imported provincial vessels. Their dating is problematic. Catalog number 2, the one below, was recovered as a stray find, while among the associated finds of catalog number 1, the upper one, only fragments of a Roman course where pot with a gritty fabric can be highlighted from the otherwise less chronologically sensitive barbarian pottery assemblage. Comparable imported vessels from the neighboring site of Ulu site 5-9 derived from context characteristic for the first half of the 3rd century, so we can expect that the fragment is the same. In analyzing the connections of the Etcher vessels presented here, the vessel form must be firstly examined. The larger preserved profile of catalog number 1 can be reconstructed with relative certainty as a steep-sided bowl with a sharply carinated body and a pronounced narrowing toward base. Whereas the stamped pottery assemblages of Eastern Pannonia are largely characterized by hemispherical bowls, this particular vessel form is highly characteristic of the production of the province of Desha. You can see the examples below. In the systematically studied stamped pottery assemblages of Porlissum in Desha Porlissensis, Christian Claudia Philipp classified this form as group F4, this one. The arrangement of the stamped decoration also points towards similar connections. In contrast to the decorative schemes of Pannonian vessels organized horizontally, which evoke terrace-relata antitypes, the ornamentation organized around a central motif frequently occurs on the Porlissum groups F1, F2, and F3. You can see examples there, all of which may be associated with the aforementioned F group in a formal context. A detailed examination of the decorative motifs of catalog number 1, however, suggests connections of an entirely different nature. By parallels to the segmented bar-like element along the left edge of the fragment, this one, may also be cited from the site of Moros Portus in Desha, by the motifs designated Corum 1-5 and Corum 5 after the publisher Anita Corum, display a particularly strong integration within the decorative repertoire of the conical shaped bowls for the Pest plain. The smaller rosette motifs, classified as Corum 1/5, owing to their simplicity, can be identified across a broad chronological and geographical range. They occur, for example, among the products of the Pannonian workshops of Rezatus at the end of the 1st century and beginning of the 2nd century AED. You can see it there with the number H17. While comparable examples are also known from the barbarian stamped ware of the Beresurain Blazice type in the 3rd century AD. You can see examples from Csengershima pattern. By contrast, the grape leaf ornament of the Corum 5 type appears to be unique and is currently known exclusively among the conical shaped bowls. So we discuss this motif. In this case, the situation appears to involve more than a simple similarity of motifs. Macroscopically observable features may indicate that in the case of the more complex grape leaf design, the motifs on the actual vessel under discussion were produced using the very same stamp as that employed on a vessel from grave 163, the upper one, from the site of Sorchar Vetődül, which its publisher classified among the conical shaped bowls. This conclusion may be inferred from the contours of the motif, particularly the shape of the stamp itself, the interruptions and irregular divisions at the tips of the leaves, as well as the incisions at the lower part of the leaf, forming an angle with the central axis of the stem. So you can see there according to the color codes. Likewise, on the basis of the features indicated on the slide, the smaller rosettes may also be regarded as products of the same stamp. The connection between the actual catalog number 1 vessel and the conical shaped bowls of the Pest plain are further strengthened by the fact that the third known parallel for the Corum 1/5 rosette derives from another vessel from Sorchar, is specifically from grave 2424, so this one. This direction of the actual vessels connections is particularly intriguing since the conical shaped bowls constitute a highly distinct group within the imported material of the Sarmatian barbaric group. Their geographical distribution is closely linked to Aquincum and its hinterland, so this region only. Although their characteristic clearly identify them as Roman products, their known crime spots fall within the Sarmatian barbecue in a ratio of 7 to 3. The decorative repertoire of the stamped examples likewise suggests a vessel type connected to a relatively limited workshop region, as their ornamentation displays a high degree of homogeneity, typically composed of combinations of rosettes with bar motifs or S-shaped elements. So the majority of this table. It should also be emphasized here that the connections of the etcher fragments belong to the exceptional subgroup highlighted in red on the slide, which stand apart from this otherwise coherent assemblage. At the same time, recent studies of the material have drawn attention to the fact that the production program of this vessel type was much broader than the stamp-decorated alon would suggest. Within the largest imported pottery assemblage currently cloned from the Sarmatian Barbaricum, stamped decoration could be identified on the approximately 30% of the conical shaped dwarfs, while the remaining 70% were undecorated plain ware. From the perspective of the present topic, it is necessary to briefly review the research history of the conical shaped balls, with particular attention to theories concerning the origin of the vessel type. In the first discussion of these finds, Eva Marotti distinguished the fragments from Dunakeszi from the other groups of stamped pottery found from Pest County. On the basis of the vessel form and the stylistic ornamentation, she proposed a Dacian origin for these vessels. Later, Margit Nagy, in connection with the publication of the cemetery at Rákossaba, Péceli Road, suggested a similar direction of influence through incorporating certain barbarian elements as well. While the ornamentation of the vessel, for example, Céke, this vessel, indeed contains related motifs, their arrangement entirely recalls Dacian stamped pottery. Likewise, it is problematic to associate the poorer quality fabric of the vessel fragment for Pesti Road with the conical bodied walls. We only know this part of the motif. Since its incomplete motif cannot be identified with the highly characteristic rosette test of the vessel type under discussion. Even on the basis of the fragmentary state of preservation, it can be stated with certainty that the motif represents part of an egg pattern from Sarmatian painted red vessel, which was among the most popular decorative motifs of barbarian stamped pottery in the microregion. On the other hand, more recent research has increasingly emphasized a Pannonian origin for this vessel type, an interpretation already suggested by Judith Topal in connection with the material from the Bécsi Road cemetery. During the systematic collection of finds from the Pest Plain, Anita Korom initiated archaeometric analysis, which revealed a high degree of correspondences with the strongly calcareous crystal clay used in the pottery workshop of Aquincum. You can see here the black dots from Aquincum, while the red dots from the Pest Plain. It is particularly noteworthy that the results of analysis previously conducted by the author, me, of the present paper on conical shaped vessels from Yle site 5 do not show agreement with Korom's findings. You can see the red dots and blue dots. The yellow dots are Sarmatian products, so this is irrelevant at the time. At the current stage of research, this discrepancy is more plausibly explained by methodological issues than by any real heterogeneity in the assemblage. So it is a mistake. We have not yet discussed the catalog number 2 vessel fragment, which expands the network of the etcher assemblage in a different direction. The motifs observable on this fragment are difficult to identify with certainty, but they may be correlated with the complex decoration and the simple segmented double bar motif of the intercisa Dunai fragment shown in the lower right corner of the slide. These elements belong to the late Roman group identified by Agnes Salomon in the Pannonian Limes region, which she dated to the 4th century AD. Based on the relationship between vessel form and ornamentation, Salomon had previously also consider the strong Dacian influences within this assemblage. The curved motif observed among these decorative elements may have been produced using the same stamp as those on catalog number 1, thereby establishing a direct link between the two fragments. So you remember these curved motif from catalog number 1. So the point presented in this presentation highlight the significance of the Escher vessels for understanding the transformations and relational networks of stamped pottery in the Carpathian Basin. The vessel form and ornamentation of catalog number 1. So this vessel clearly indicate Dacian influences, within which the role of Porlisum should be highlighted. The major centers of stamped pottery production in the region, alongside sites such as Potaissa, Torda, and Napoca. In contrast, the correspondence of stamp with a group of conical shaped balls integrates Dacian stamped works into the developmental sequence of a characteristic vessel type from the Pest plain. In this context, the unique occurrence of the Escher fragments underlines their transitional nature, functioning almost as a missing link. So these vessels. It must nevertheless be stressed that the Escher vessels are not directly related to the fully developed homogeneous group characterized by the major formal repertoire and ornamentation. Rather, they belong to an earlier, still transitional phase that is closer to these forms, but not yet fully integrated into them. Within the typological system of Anita Forum, this corresponds to types 14, 15, and 16. So these groups, although these already approach the most frequently identified type number 1, so Forum type 1. In terms of vessel form, their decoration does not yet combine rosettes with filler motifs. The more uncertain connections suggested by catalog number 2 with the late Pannonian ceramic group defined by Agnes Salomon remain unresolved at the moment, but they may nonetheless mutually reinforce the hypothesis concerning Dacian antitypes. The hypothetical model constructed for the developmental sequence of the conical shaped balls can only be substantiated in the future to more precise chronological refinement of the assemblage. In this respect, the vessel type is problematic as it belongs to that group of quoted Roman verse, which, although seemingly present already in the first half of the 3rd century AD, is also demonstrably attested in use into the early 4th century AD. At the current stage of research, it can nevertheless be stated with a reasonable degree of confidence that further connections between Dacian and Pannonian stamped pottery can be demonstrated. And here is the bibliography of the topic, and thank you for your attention.
Thomas, thank you very much for this very inspiring talk. And your colleagues, do you have any questions and comments on this talk, maybe? Once, twice, no? Can I try again?
Yes.
Please give me some short comment on context. Is this a military household from villas? Where do they come from?
This is from a Sarmatian settlement. As I said, one is Strafine and the other from Sarmatian pit. So with a lot of Sarmatian barbarian pottery. So we can say much about the context.
Great context? No?
The cave context is the parallels, as you see, but this a bit different, and they can be dated precisely. This is the 3rd and 4th
So
centuries.
they're spread.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, and I will announce our next speaker. This is Peter Jershek. For topic, reassessing early medieval ceramic typology in Dalmatia, methods, challenges, and results.
Thank you for this introduction. and thank you for giving me the opportunity to present a small section of my PhD research into early medieval ceramic finds from northern Dalmatia in Croatia. So when we are discussing these finds, we are talking almost exclusively about pottery from 8th to 9th century grave inventories. Early medieval settlements remain largely unknown. These ceramic vessels were made using a hand wheel and are quite recognizable because they frequently appear as grave goods until about the mid-9th century, a period that marks the consolidation of the Duchy of Croatia in the hinterland of Byzantine cities like Zadar. Janko Belošević's written the most about this topic. In 1962, he noted that there were no scientific papers devoted solely to early medieval pottery from this region, a situation that began to change only recently. For decades, really, pottery was discussed in the context of publications on individual cemeteries, providing only basic information on morphology and technology. Although these contributions are valuable, of course, there are certain terminological shortcomings in the description of on-vessel forms, as well as methodological gaps in the overall analysis of ceramic material. If we focus on vessel morphology, somewhat outdated and insufficiently clear terminology is used. I've selected here several examples to illustrate this. We have, for example, this egg-shaped pot, which really isn't that egg-shaped. And we have also some awkward terms such as egg-shaped bellied pots, bellied oval shape, bellied globular shape, some of which were rather difficult to translate into English in a way that made sense. For a long time, the closest attempt at a typology consisted of two groups of vessels, distinguished by Belošević himself, pottery of typically Slavic forms, or we would call them S-profile vessels, and pottery of distinctive form, which included vessels with handles and some other related vessels without handles. It cannot be said that a typology has been established by distinguishing these two groups, either at the level of individual sites or at a horizon level. The procedure of creating a pottery typology is well defined and involves data collection, selecting variants, selecting relevant variables on which to define your types, labeling and naming them, and of course classifying the material, which is not found in this case or only to some extent. Regarding recent papers, I provided brief insights into the typology of ceramics from Maklinovo Brdo and Razvojine cemeteries in Kašić, which were necessary for my analysis of forming techniques and vessel standardization. On the other hand, pottery typology was not provided by my colleagues in their paper discussing forming techniques also, but also traces of use on ceramics from Vačani Laluše cemetery. But back to my PhD research, I studied a total of 236 vessels from 7 sites. The vessels were recovered from graves, as I said earlier, with some additional examples found around the graves. Ceramic from the site of the Church of the Holy Cross in Nin, here mentioned as Nin Sveti Križ, are mostly settlement finds adjacent to the cemetery, and these were used as a control set of vessels. The finds were examined macroscopically and photographed in detail. Additionally, existing archaeological drawings from literature were used. The establishment of a typology served multiple purposes, given the complexity of goals in my analysis, them being the systematization of the material, the exploration of technological traditions through technical chains, particularly in shaping, the organization of production, and also pottery function. Besides being a tool for systematic classification, of course, typology provided a much-needed basis for further analysis of the ceramic assemblages, and this will enable multi-level statistical analysis of the material, cross-referencing the results by site and also comparisons between sites, which remains ongoing for some cemeteries. An important part of creating the topology was describing vessel forms using standardized terminology, since this wasn't the case in the past. Shape proved to be the most important diagnostic variable, as it could be fully assessed due to the good preservation of the vessels, but no major differences in ceramic structure were observed. The assemblages consist of coarseware with a large quantity of tamper visible to the naked eye, as you can see this here in pictures number 2 and 3, taken under low magnification. It was also noted that almost no pottery was shaped without the use of a hand wheel. Then vessel color was taken as a diagnostic variable, but proved useful only for distinguishing functional types. Decorations occur too infrequently, really, to be typologically relevant, and are examined by type, as are rims, which are not a diagnostic variable on their own. A basic division into functional types, so pots, jugs, bottles, cups, and also lids, labeled from A to E, is used for clarity, despite the limitations of classifying vessels by presumed use, which often overlooks their multifunctionality. But subjectivity was minimized through useware analysis, which is also important due to the relatively small size of vessels with formal characteristics of cooking pots. In the analysis of shapes, 2 classification approaches were combined, one based on vessel contour and other one on geometry. By comparing vessel shapes with geometric forms, so sections of a spheroid, ellipsoid, ovaloid, hyperboloid, the use of varied and imprecise terminology was avoided. Typological classification used the 2 largest assemblages from Ninjdrijac and Kašić-Maklinovo Brdo as main references. Pots with a pulled-out rim and no handles are the most numerous. They are smaller, up to 16 centimeters, but mostly between 11 and 14 centimeters in height. The types are arranged from squat pots with spheroid or ovaloid bodies, here as A1 and A2, to those with moderately or highly elongated bodies, so from A3 to A6, also ordered by frequency. Variants are defined mainly by neck height, rarely by body fullness. Regardless of the type, pots show carbon deposits on inner walls, as you can see here, and external sooting, oxidized patches, all related to heat exposure, indicating that they were used for meal preparation. Other functional types are much rarer as grave offerings, with each having fewer than 10 examples, and this is in total and not per site. Almost every jug represents a new type, and only a single bottle has been recorded. Cups resemble pots, but are smaller and lack carbonized residues. Only one lid is known, we saw it earlier, and it comes from a settlement context near Nin's Church of the Holy Cross. The typology has been formulated for use at a regional level. However, its main limitation should be noted. It is not known to what extent the ceramic grave goods represent the full range of forms used in households of this period, and for this reason, the typology is left open to further expansion. However, it likely captures core pot types already, with additional types and variants expected mainly for rarer forms like jugs or bottles. Although the high occurrence of complete vessels is fortunate, of course, for defining typology, as it enables full shape analysis, unlike the focus on rims customary in fragmented assemblages, the widespread use of the wheel coiling technique resulted in many asymmetrical vessels with various form imperfections, making classification a bit more challenging. While asymmetry is common in wheel-coiled vessels, higher degrees of symmetry may indicate the work of less experienced potters. Differences in the shape of pots within the same type largely depend on the potter's skill, the way he handles the clay, how well he controls the pressure applied during the various stages of shaping, and practical realization of the intended vessel form, but also size. The production of an experimental set of defined pot types, now numbering around 40 vessels, but to be continued, has shown how easily pressure applied in the wrong place or for too long can result in a vessel of a different shape than originally planned. That is a completely different type. Because of this, a certain degree of variation in overall form among pots of the same type was, of course, permitted. In conclusion, even though a complete interpretation of all aspects of my research on the production and use of 8th to 9th century ceramics from several cemeteries in northern Dalmatia is still pending, the topology presented here has already proved useful in my published studies on the fashioning details and the standardization of vessels from smaller cemeteries in the area. Furthermore, when selecting pots for organic residue analysis, which will be done later this year, an effort was made to ensure a balanced coverage of different types. Without a typology, such analysis appears somewhat arbitrary, as they lack a crucial point of reference. There is no foundation on which further interpretation can be built. In that sense, typology remains highly relevant and necessary in modern pottery studies. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Very detailed, inspiring. And dear colleagues, again, some questions, comments on this? Or video ceramics? Please.
I have a question. You mentioned all the various statistics and this classification into types. Which method or technique did you use to get those types based on form that you presented on the slides? It was based on measurements or the.
I just, nothing too sophisticated. I just worked on the material. The measurements are really quite the same. So it was just like the form. Yeah, I took, the profiles, but also I used archaeological drawings because these cemeteries are mostly already published, apart from Dubrovice, for example. So I already had some material ready for me to use, but I, went through all of this material myself and, measured, took the profiles, and also I did, total photos. So yeah, nothing too sophisticated, but.
That's fine. I was just wondering because I know I read a study recently, colleagues from Czech Republic, I think they did a very large study on the somewhat earlier Prague type pottery, and they all had these 3D models and scanned it. It was some form of geometric morphometry, so I wonder if this was the same thing. But yeah, now I understand why you asked me the question. And for everyone, if anyone wants to try the method of automatic classification that we developed, we are happy to collaborate with anyone.
Yeah.
If you have drawings or photographs, we can work on it. So
I mean, I did 3D models, but only for Dubrovice. But it is very time consuming.
yeah.
And for around 300 vessels, it would took forever.
It's just profile,
Yeah.
profile drawings and yeah. And these experiments that you mentioned with making pots,
Yeah.
is that only you? Or
Yeah.
do you have some other
No.
to examine because it's very interesting to how hard it is. How long did it take you to learn to make a pot?
Well, at first you have some pots that just don't turn out good, so you discard those. I didn't even, took them for firing. So, but it is okay. You get used to it, and with practice you get better. I wouldn't say I'm perfect, of course, because 40 vessels is not that many, but
You have to really make them. And did you try to measure the variation? And because I'm interested, because we did a similar experiment with virtual vessels. We had an application online for people to make 3D vessels, and then because we could not imagine that this is possible, so that's why
Yeah.
to make this vessels. Anyway, thanks. I don't want to.
I mean, it was, bit difficult because you have to imagine, you have to have an idea what you're making.
Yeah.
And you want to make it, I don't know, 15 centimeters, but that it doesn't, turn out like that. It is usually too small or too big or too wide. But I didn't do any analysis, like metric analysis still,
Yeah.
because this is still work in
How much
progress.
it varies when a single person is making,
Yeah.
how much it's standardized.
Oh, I don't think it's standardized at this point, but maybe with time.
Yeah.
Great, thank you again. And our final contributors are Jelena Živković and Vesna Tić, rethinking typologies of early modern ceramics in the Western Balkans and Eastern Mediterranean.
Thank you. Good afternoon from me again. So the study of early modern ceramics from the Balkans and the Eastern Mediterranean are in this dynamic phase where we are witnessing a rapid increase in available data. But this process has not been accompanied always with a meaningful debate on data processing methodologies. We all use typology in the field, but questions of how and why we classify ceramics are yet to be fully debated. In today's presentation, Vesna and I would like to share some of our thoughts on this issue. So the beginning of the early modern era is linked to the emergence of global networks in the 15th century that accelerated not merely the long distance transportation of goods, but also the transmission of knowledge and ideas. In the regions of the Eastern Mediterranean and the Balkans, this process unfolded within political frameworks of two empires, the Ottoman and the Austrian. Starting from the late 14th century, the Ottoman Empire incorporated the region in its boundaries. However, then in the late 17th century, the Austrian Habsburg Empire took over some northern parts of the Balkans, including the Middle Danube region. In these two imperial spaces, different ceramic traditions coexisted. They can be defined based on morphology of vessels, but moreover, based on different production technologies, including ceramic paste, slip, and glaze compositions. Now, this diversity of early modern ceramics strongly influenced development of different classification systems that, just developed separately within different archaeological school of thoughts. For the Ottoman realm, these common pottery, what we call common pottery or earthenware, they usually account for more than 90% of all ceramics at both urban and rural archaeological sites. In the group of glazed pottery, we can observe some standardization in terms of morphology, but also in how technology was used. For example, white slips across different regions of the empire were prepared from these non-calcareous clays, while glazes are of high lead types. Other than common earthenware, all other, especially luxurious types of ceramics, developed under the influence of Chinese porcelain and celadon. Ottoman courts started importing these highly priced products from the 15th century onwards. They were very technologically advanced products for that time, made of glassy ceramic body that was made of kaolinite, fired at above 1,200 Celsius degrees. And this glossy glaze that was sometimes additionally decorated with cobalt blue paintings. In the 16th century, Ottoman imperial workshops in the town of Iznik in Anatolia sought to reproduce these qualities using locally available technologies. To create white ceramic body, they adopted fritware technology developed in Islamic medieval world. This is not a typical ceramic body like made of fired clay. It consists of quartz, which was mixed with a frit and a little bit of clay. Fritware was an innovation in medieval Islamic world, and it changed our understanding of what ceramics can be. Iznik vessels were also decorated with a type of a lead alkaline glaze with added tin oxide. This is a significantly different recipe compared to high lead glazes used for common pottery. This technology continued to be used into the 17th century in the production center of Kütahya, specialized in the manufacture of colorful coffee cups. Italian potters were also inspired by Chinese porcelain, and they also sought to create something like it. However, unlike potters in Iznik, they coated earthenware in tin opacified glazes that appear white, and they served as a foundation for painting. For paintings. Another important Italian class of ceramic is this marbleware, which is also a type of earthenware decorated with different slips and paints to produce this marble effect. Both classes were widely popular in the Eastern Mediterranean between the 15th and 17th centuries, and were also made by some Greek potters in their workshops in the 18th and 19th centuries, adding to this general diversity. Then in the Central European space, in the Austrian Empire, we can also see the development of tin opacified pottery, similar to Maiolica. The most famous is Haban pottery, made in the 17th and 18th centuries by potters of the Anabaptist community. And this pottery was also very popular in the Middle Danube region. At the same time, several Central European production centers engaged in the manufacture of highly fired earthenware called stoneware. This is ceramic fired on very high temperatures, like 1,200 Celsius degrees, and vessels were decorated with salt-based glazes that are very distinct, and they differ compositionally from everything that I have mentioned so far. Stoneware was used in the Middle Danube region in the 18th century. This is a bottle found in Belgrade, used for the consumption of mineral water. In the Austrian Empire, this in Central European space, a different earthenware was also produced, painted or unpainted, with cover usually with lead glazes. Now, given this diversity, development of different classification systems is expected. Usually, ceramics are classified according to wares that are taken as distinctive categories of ceramics. However, there is little guidance on how wares should be defined and named. This differs significantly between glazed and coarse pottery, as I will try to explain. One way to name a ware is after a production center, and one production center can be linked to multiple decorative styles and forms, but the provenance criterion is taken as more important than anything else. This is the case with Iznik and Kütahya wares. Both production centers, produce different style pottery. And in some cases, the provenance criterion proved to be durable. This is the case with Iznik and Kütahya. But as I said, these production centers were specialized in fruitware technology, and they had access to costly raw materials. So they were not just very common workshops. However, when the same provenance-based classification is applied to earthenware, there are more problems appear, and they have implications not only for typology but for our understanding of distribution and exchange. A good example is the Demotico ware. An earthenware class, very popular in the 19th century Mediterranean. This is a slip painted glazed ware. It was named after a kiln site found in present-day Greece. And for decades, it was believed that all ceramics found in the region came from a single production center. However, recently the variability in fabrics and then scientific analysis, this confirmed the multiple production centers, including those in Thessaloniki and Cyprus, and I expect to see many more. Another way to classify earthenware, glazed earthenware, is by decorative styles. And this is a more consistent approach than the previous one. As graffito ware, monochrome glazed ware, it's quite self-descriptive. However, this pottery is found at nearly every early modern site across the region, and sometimes we can observe different fabrics linked to a single ware at one archaeological site. So by grouping them together into a single ware, we may imply uniformity that actually doesn't exist. Then there are coarse wares. They are out of methodological frameworks. Typologies are not developed to include coarse wares. And they are less studied and less classified in early modern archaeology. Usually, researchers use site-specific classification systems, relying on macroscopic observations of fabrics, including color and visible inclusions. The question is, how do we move forward? I would say that some of these problems will remain. They cannot be just solved over the night. But considering that a lot of early modern ceramics reported in a literature still come out of archaeological context, I think that a contextualized based approach is really the most important thing right now. Another is a consistency in data collecting across, one region. So at the Institute of Archaeology in Belgrade, we recently adopted a strategy that is based on this really collection of many different information incorporated into ceramic databases. So we use these standard classification systems for glazed wares based on decorative styles. But also wares are defined also based on fabrics. There are metrics described for each vessels and different types of illustrations that to support these classification systems, including photographs of shirts, micro images of cross sections, and drawings. This strategy has recently been used in my ongoing project called Danube that addresses connectivity along the Danube, Sava, and Drava rivers during the Ottoman period. Connectivity is assessed through the transmission of technological knowledge along the rivers. The project includes 6 different sites, and classification has been a really important part of research. For a database, I use a very simple design. I use the Zenodo platform supported by European Union. This is an open access source that allows the deposition of different files with an Excel style data set being the central document that links illustrations and all other information. This way, like we can download, use and reuse data for any future research concerning early modern age in the Middle Danube region. So far, 2 data sets have been published. You can find them on Zenodo with 4 more coming. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you for this very interesting talk. And again, talks, comments, questions, anything? Of course.
So your project is you want to basically for each site determine the frequency of pottery coming from this source and that source, right? And then to do some kind of network analysis, right?
Yeah, so I will use archaeometry to reconstruct the production technology and how the knowledge was transmitted across the region. But to reach this point, I need to first observe variability. We don't have any kiln sites.
So it's not that simple that you only identify, you can say, this is, I don't know, it was from the Ottoman, this is, so you have to, you have local production in mind as well.
Yes, I actually target local production of the Middle Danube region, but to know what is likely local, I need data on quantities and yeah.
I will have a final question and to finish maybe. My question refers, being that I'm not very in this topic like you are, and I'm always referring to Vesna's publication, but how to name certain fragments, certain types according to this production center, or by technology, or by period, what would be the best solution in future for us who are not in this topic then?
I would avoid naming wares after production centers. It's tricky, at least for this period. Vesna and I use for glazed wares these standardized names built on decorative styles that are more or less standardized in the field. For coarse wares, we just name them. You know, so far we have been using something like domestic wear 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the best we could think of.
Thank you. So if there is no question, I will conclude this session. It's a very successful one. And thank you all, first of all, to our speakers and to all for you all who have followed this session. And I think that's it for today. Have a nice afternoon, and we see you tomorrow 9 o'clock.
Naravno.
Za projekt.
Naravno, čekaj, mi smo.
Nisam se prije
To, čekaj da pismo.
Let's see with Petya. Sorry, evo ja želim. Andrej Schmidt, assistant.
Excuse me. You need to.
To print.
Okay. Well, possible solution. Yeah.
Okay, dobro. Hvala.
Je dokaz da si izlagala.
Hvala za projekt.
Marko, nismo se uhodili. Evo koji sajt.
Pa jasno me je zamolila, ne znam šta je radili, ali sjajni su podaci zaista. Mada vi ste već tipologiju radili. Vi ste na filozofskom tamo. Aha, baš sjajno. Sjajni su oni podaci. I to sve se prvi fotografija praktično. Da. Zanima da se igra ali ovi eksperimenti su sjajni, to baš se plavimo se dobili da ta metrička varijacija grešna, kolika je, kada neko stigne da napravi isto, pa ne uspe. Mi smo radili, dovršeni smo